Imagine that you take your wife out of town, enjoying hot pot and singing songs, and were suddenly robbed by gangsters. This is a memorable quote from the movie Let the Bullet Fly, directed by Zhong Wen. Well, I wonder if you have noticed that the train in the movie was pulled by horses. If you are familiar with history, you may know trains being pulled by horses was the most representative of the incompetence of the government of the Qin Dynasty. The railway was completed, but the engine was not allowed to be used for fear of affecting the dragon vein, as the eastern tombs of the Qin Dynasty were near the railway. How ridiculous! Well, today we don't talk about history, but the railway design that is common in our life. In 1767, Richard Reynolds built a set of tracks in Brookdale to transport coal, which was made of wood at first and then became rail. But you will never know that the railway existed in Qin Dynasty over 2000 years ago. As what we have been learning from books, the first emperor of Qin united 6 states and implemented several initiatives which were writing in the same language, driving on the same track, measuring in the same way and using the same currency system. Writing in the same language refers to unifying written language. Measuring in the same way and using the same currency system refer to unifying measurements and currency. So what is driving on the same track? The book explains that it means the unification of vehicle lanes. I didn't understand the importance of the same sizes of carriages until I saw this railway of the Qin Dynasty. According to the archaeological findings in the mountain of Enyang, Henan province, a railway of the Qin Dynasty more than 2,200 years ago was discovered. This section of deserted railway is quite similar to the modern railway. In construction mode, both of them have crosties and tracks. But the one from the Qin Dynasty was made of wood and its surface was anti-corrosive, which is almost the same as the one we use today. The Book of Han, biography of Jia Shan, described Qin government built railways all over the country. Eastwards to vassal states Yan and Qi, southwards to vassal state Wu. One can enjoy landscapes of rivers and lakes. Along up to Bohai, the railway was 50 step wide, with trees planted at both sides every 3 zhang, about 10 meters. Its inside was thickly constructed and consolidated by hammer. Its 2 sides were decorated with green pines. The existence of Qin Railway is undoubted. The craftsmen at that time were respectable. The railway they built was over 1800 years earlier than that of Richard Reynolds. How marvelous the designers are, but more amazingly, the train on the railway was pulled by horses. From the distance between the crosties, we can see that it wasn't designed for humans, because the steps of man are smaller than this. After measurements, it was found that the distance between crosties exactly conformed to the steps of horses. The horses would automatically run once they were on the railway and almost unstoppable. But how did the horses stop eventually? Experts speculated that there must have been a special station where the staff would fill in the gaps between the crosties with wood before the horses arrived, and the horses would stop naturally. Then the horses would be replaced with well-rested horses and moved on. Thanks to the use of rails, there was less friction for the horse to carry more goods. It explains the concept of unify the railway. Let's move our eyes back to today. The railways around the world today are basically in line with this concept. There are only 3 kinds of railway width in the world: standard gauge, broad gauge, and narrow gauge. Nearly 60% of the countries in the world adopt standard gauge or international gauge, including China, and the standard gauge is also the earliest designed rail in the world, with a length of 1,435 millimeters. Interestingly, this standard was set by a British, but his original intention was the same as that of the Qin Dynasty. In the beginning, the trains in Britain were also pulled by horses, and later transformed into steam-powered trains in the age of steam. But the railway standard of horse-pulled trains has remained. Then why are there broad and narrow gauges? For example, Russia and India use broad gauge, while some countries in Africa and Asia use narrow gauge. In fact, no matter how many goods there are to transport on the broad gauge, or how much money can be saved by the narrow gauge, the fundamental purpose is for self-defense in wars. Here is an interesting story. At the end of the Qin Dynasty, Yan Zishan, the warlord of Shaanxi province, chose to build narrow gauge railways for two reasons. One was to save a large amount of money, the other was for self-defense, because by doing so, his enemies had to transfer or change wheels if they wanted to get into Shaanxi. Yan Zishan's Datong-Puzhou Railway was started to build in 1935. In 1937, when the War of Resistance against Japan broke out, only 3/4 of it was completed. After the Japanese army occupied most of Shaanxi, they finished the rest part of the Datong-Puzhou Railway, and the northern section was forced to change to the standard gauge railway, which cost a lot of money and material resources. While we are amazed by the design wisdom of ancients, a leap in magnitude is achieved today. On the morning of October 30th, 2022, China's first cross-sea high-speed railway the Fuzhou-Xiamen has been completed. Imagine sitting on the fast-moving Fuzhou-Xiamen train and crossing the vast sea, as if it were a dream, just like the scene in the movie Spirited Away. Fly across mountains and seas, reaching the place we dream about. Not only does design change our life, but also makes us expect our life. I'm Shirley Feng. Design makes life better. See you next time.